Good afternoon. Here just to talk a little bit about our mission with our culture and climate team as we've really developed as professionals, as educators, and really just as a community this year going through our cultural proficiency training here at Green Acres. The mission of our culture and climate team and all staff at Green Acres is to provide every student with access to the structures and support that they need to excel in all areas. These systems will provide consistent expectations that lead to success, not just academically, but also in all other areas, including socially and emotionally. We really want to ensure that regardless of background, all students have equal access to really being a Charger with heart, honest, effective, ambitious, respectful, and thoughtful. Our goal is that when students leave Green Acres, they really feel like they can be productive members of their community, not only outside of Green Acres, but beyond in high school. So that's kind of always been our mission here at Green Acres, but we're going to start to train our staff and look a little bit differently through that cultural proficiency lens. The cultural proficiency team here at Green Acres really tried to work with our site team and other sites to think about what would our vision be as we developed our action plan and our outcomes. And here are some of the things that we came up with as a team that we want to focus on at the end of this school year and really into next school year as we begin to train our staff. Number one, we want to ensure that Green Acres staff members continue to have those high expectations for students, but really truly making sure they believe and support all students being successful, not just academically, but also social emotionally to help them be connected at school. We also want to ensure that we are continuing a collaborative culture and having them work together, not just to work on what we would consider to be common lesson design, but really to take a look at our lessons and our practices and make sure that they are culturally responsive to all students at our school. Another thing that we are considering when looking at our vision to develop our action plan is to ensure that at Green Acres, not just the academic environment, but the social environment for students and staff members continues to be really positive and safe. We feel like that's been a strength at Green Acres. We feel that people at Green Acres, staff, students, or community have a very strong sense of significance and belonging. But again, we want to bring it through that cultural proficiency lens and look at those potential barriers that we can help students, community, and staff overcome to really bridge them to that positive place. And lastly, we really want to make sure that we are looking at data to look not only at academic achievement, but also making sure we're looking at that data that shows our students and staff connected to school, and then really create systems to address when we see that there are barriers on our campus.
Our Equity Action Plan. We believe that all students benefit in an equitable educational system that fully supports their academic, social, and emotional needs. Equity is fundamental to the educational process and to ensuring that all students have the necessary resources and support to meet their full academic and social potential. The Green Acres Equity Plan contains goals, actions, and measurable outcomes designed to help create and support an inclusive, positive, and safe culture and climate for all students, staff, and families in order to meet their academic, health, social, and emotional needs for all students. How are we going to do this? We want to narrow the access and education gap at Green Acres. We want to reduce and eliminate disproportionate outcomes amongst students. We're going to build professional capital and capacity to grow and support systemic change. We're going to plan and implement action within a tiered system of support. And we are going to create needed institutional changes through intentional design of services and supports to address barriers that prevent student access and opportunities. Our Equity Action Plan becomes a lens by which we examine our practices and provides an intentional focus to promote and normalize equity, access, and inclusion on our campus.
After outcomes, we want to take actions so we can accomplish these outcomes. First, we want to humanize the data. We want to look at individualizing action plans for students, at-risk, ELD, SPED, etc. Next, we want to identify individual barriers. So instead of saying Green Acres special ed students are in orange for suspensions, we want to ask ourselves, what is causing this person to be suspended? What is their barrier that we want to help them overcome? We also want to see how we can come together and transition and help these students from 6th grade to 7th grade and 8th grade to 9th grade. We want to foster campus staff collaborative learning about individual students' needs on campus, as well as making family connections, phone calls, emails, that kind of stuff. And how we want to implement this is for staff development in fall 2021. We want to introduce student voice through video, and we want to share data to the staff to create buy-in. And we have a rich history here on Green Acres over the past 60 years of diversity. We want to broaden the definition of diversity, and we want to value where we've been as a school, but also where we need to go going forward. And we plan to roll this out to all stakeholders, including students, families, and community.
Green Acres already has a strong foundation to create an environment where children feel seen, heard, and valued. Staff focus on relationships, always assuming good intentions. Staff are provided restorative practices training, including restorative circle training. Discussions are centered on student choice. Frequent SEL discussions take place in staff meetings. Leadership hosts games with students. RTI lessons are provided for students weekly. And PLCs are actively focused on equity practices.
Good afternoon. This has been, as you know, a crazy year, and really we're using this year, the end of this year, to propel us into next year and to create some strong goals for our staff and our students to build on so that we can have a more culturally proficient campus, welcoming for all of our families, students, and staff. Our main goal is to create a quality education and training for all of our stakeholders. That's our staff, our students, and our community. In this way, we'll take on our cultural proficiency team doing the initial training. We're going to include professional development during the course of the year at about 30 minutes at a time for people to have an opportunity to watch some video, to tell their story, and to help develop some lessons and communication with our community. That is really going to be key in unifying all of our ideas together. Over the course of the year, our plan is to continue with having a culturally proficient staff, to create a space that our English learners can feel more welcome and more safe, that they can grow in their learning, and that we can use and incorporate all of our staff and students to make them feel that we have a more diverse community. We feel like we've gotten a good start, but we want to build on this over the course of the next year.
Our second focus area is to maintain a caring, encouraging, inclusive, and culturally responsive learning environment that views diversity as an asset and a strength. Our goal is to start the 21-22 school year off by presenting and implementing the district-approved SEL program, Second Step, to use the DEI data to see a feasible increase in the survey percentage of the focus areas, and holding continuous conversations on the different areas to determine how we can make improvements, to reestablish Tier 1 procedures with a cultural proficiency lens, to reestablish a complete PBIS Tier 1 team, and to ensure that social emotional learning is an integrated program at Green Acres Middle School. We hope to do this by developing a culturally responsive teaching plan, by implementing SEL strategies school-wide, not only during class time, but also during focused homeroom time weekly, to build relationships through minute meetings that allows us to get to know our students on a personal basis, and also to identify their unique needs so we can work to create bridges for success, and to equip students transitioning to and from middle school.
Benchmarks. Green Acres will utilize the following methods to assess our progress. The DEI data, and that will be utilized for focus areas 2 and 4, and we will be assessing that yearly. Culture and climate data, to be utilized for focus areas 2 and 4, and we will be assessing that every other marking period. The California dashboard data, that will be utilized for focus area 3, and we will assess that yearly. And finally, the PowerSchool data, which will be utilized for focus area 5, and we plan to assess that every other marking period.